Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Yvonne Priest Show. I'm Yvonne Priest, your little ray of darkness, and today we are talking
Aw.
to writer, director, producer, and actor, and a very predominant figure in the Los Angeles horror community, Dave Reda. Dave, nice to finally have you on the show.
Oh, grr. Good to see you. Good to see you. Long time no see.
A very long time no see. So, Dave,
Facts.
what are people to expect when they go to a Dave Reda film?
I'm sorry.
What are people to expect when they go to a Dave Reda film?
I like what I love about my movies is people don't know what to expect with my stuff. There's always going to be some sort of twist. It's definitely not going to be your typical kind of film, but the way I describe when people ask me to describe my movies, what I would typically say is well, I know you're familiar with the classics, Frankenstein, Dracula, King Kong, Creature, Black Lagoon, Mummy. In all those movies, the monster was always chasing a girl or he wanted a friend and then he got killed over it. I always hated that as a kid because I loved the monster. So in my movies, the monster will get the girl at the end. I like to say I'm horribly sweet with my stuff. But in saying that, I like to balance and that's the thing is balancing horror and I mean scary, comedy, and romance all in one movie. It's a hard balancing act. I'm breaking everybody else's rules and what the rules are, especially what old Hollywood would do. I'm breaking their rules to do what I do, but I have to follow my own rules because if I make it too funny, then it's, campy and silly, scary movie, and then it's just bleh, and it's never going to be scary or really romantic. If I make it too bloody and scary, it'll never be the romance angle and the especially the comedy, it loses it, right? If I make it too romancy, then it becomes Twilight and nobody wants that. So it is this weird balancing act that I'm doing to try to keep it within that. So that's what you can expect with one of my films
Well, it's definitely
or
what I've
all of them.
noticed with all the films I've watched of yours. So, apart from being such a avid horror fan, you didn't start with horror. You really started with comedy. You started with a show called Click This. Can you tell us about that?
I did. We did click this for 3 years here. And that's really how I got my feet wet directing. Click this actually, though it was a sketch comedy show, we were in control of your TV set for half an hour was what it was, and we were, like the channels would change, and that's hence the name Click This. And so it was fun because you could get a sketch that we had. I mean, you could write it it was nine people in a room trying to make each other laugh. And I mean, you could write something if you had just a one liner, you could write that because it could be just a like it was just flipping by, I love tacos, flip, you know what I mean? And you could do that. And or you could actually have something that was longer. And it was such a crazy format that we created. And then we were all a bunch of actors in a room because I was the leader of the group. I realized one of us had to direct, so it wound up being me. And so Click This actually turned into a 3-year crash course on filmmaking for me because we were spoofing all kinds of TV and everybody else's styles and everybody's movies, and we were spoofing everything. So it was weird. It was an odd sort of 3-year crash course on how to make movies by accident for me. And I just realized that I sort of had this knack for directing. It just like it was very easy for me. I just thought I grew up with movies and I loved movies so much. And through all the acting and stuff I was doing, I realized that I could tell a story. I had these stories in my head, but not only that, I knew how to tell a story visually. And I think that's really, really what's important for a director. People get lost on what a director is, and that's really what you're doing. You're directing the audience attention to tell this story. And that's really what I try to do and Click This because it was so random. It really sort of trained my skills to do it that way. And it was on my first feature film that I was right in the middle of it. Like five people came up to me and this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem, this problem. And I went blip, 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 and solved all five of them like that. And I went, how the fuck did I just do that? On the inside? You can't do it on the outside.
Yeah.
On the inside, I'm like, how the fuck did I just do that? And I went, click this. Because I'd seen all five of those problems and click this and solved it. And so and I think that's the moment that I'm like, holy shit, I'm a filmmaker. What the fuck? Like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a good tool for you because, as you know, I have a copy of your feature bit parts sitting right here. If I can make sure there's
Oh,
no light shining on it. So, yeah, I was actually just about to ask how the transitional period between going from YouTube videos to film were, but it seemed like it was pretty
oof.
breezy. Or is it not as breezy as
Um,
we think?
it was weird. It was a different time. When we were doing Click This, there was no internet at that time. I mean, there was, I mean, there was no internet. There was internet. I mean, just YouTube and all that wasn't really, it was really it was just, we had the iFilm channel and YouTube. They were battling it out, which obviously YouTube won. But when we were doing Click This, trying to break into TV at that time was really hard because all the networks only had one channel. There wasn't MTV2, MTV3. And so they were just being very selective and dicks. And in 2003, I actually talked my way. I schmoozed my way into the MTV offices right up to the vice president in charge of programming and schmoozed his secretary into believing that she had already scheduled a meeting for us with the guy, but it for somehow wasn't on the books. And so she panicked. And it turns out, I found out later when I actually had the meeting with John Miller over there at MTV that she was a new secretary. I'd caught a new secretary on her first day,
Oh,
and she thought she fucked up. So she actually scheduled this meeting for the next Friday, and so I got to I would take a meeting with the vice president in charge. This was a guy that discovered Tom Green and put Tom Green on the air and Cecil and Ollie and all that. And so we got in there, and I'm sitting there, and I put on my show. And at that time, Click This, it was YouTube didn't really exist, so people weren't ready for amateur stuff, and you couldn't see the future of what they could have done for us, what MTV could have done for us. And so he didn't really like the show, but he just kept looking at me and was like, dude, how the fuck did you get in my office? Do you understand Tom Cruise has been trying for weeks to take a meeting with me? How the fuck are you in here? And I'm like, because I'm a badass motherfucker and you should pay attention to me, dude. I'm here for a reason. And he looks at me and he goes, all right, I'll take you and I'll take this one girl who happened to be my cousin, who was actually Maggie in bit parts.
oh,
Because she was one of my Click This cast members. So he's like, I'll take you and I'll take Michelle, the girl who plays Maggie. But you got to fire everybody else. And then I'm going to surround a show around you. And I'm going to give you, they were looking for a vehicle for Seth Green at that time. And you may see the connection now of what they did to
yes.
me. And I went, looked at him and I went, so you want, two of my writers were sitting in the room too. So I looked at them and they're just looking at me with like this. And I'm like, so you want me to fire all my people? You're gonna take me and then start a whole new show without my people? They're the ones that got me here. And he's like, yeah, yeah. And he's looking at me, he's smiling. And I look at him and I go, you're the devil. You're asking me to sell my soul right now. And he went, yes. And I went, I can't do it. I can't. I can't. They got me here. We're a team. And I just can't do it. And he went, the press would have loved me if I did it. And I'm like, I would love you if you did it. And I'm like, dude, I'm much more than, and this is where I made my mistake. I looked at him, I went, dude, and this is how I found out that he discovered Tom Green. Because I'm like, dude, I'm much more. Look at this. We have a whole show we put together. I'm not running out there fucking sucking off horses for fucking laughs. We work for every laugh we get. I mean, what the fuck? And he goes, yeah, I discovered Tom Green. And I went, okay. Well, still, my point is still valid, you know? And so he's like, yeah, well, if you're not gonna do that, then here, leave your show, leave a copy of your show here, and maybe we'll talk, whatever. But you know what? I'll keep my eye on you, kid. And I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You're gonna keep your eye on me. What does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean for me? And he went, I'll keep my eye on you. And then the meeting ended. And so when MTV declined us at that point, and they pretty much were like, fire these people, that was pretty much the beginning of the end for Click This. You know, I knew the show was pretty much gonna die. And then it was right then we were winning film festivals with it. And then somebody looked over at me and said, you know, if you made movies, you could actually sell them and make money. And it was then that I realized that all the work and everything we were putting into every half an hour show, we were making mini movies and we could actually make a movie and sell it. So then and make money. So then that was what I felt the death of Click This, and so we had to make movies. And when we went to make movies, we looked at the what was the most money making genres out there, and of course, porn was number one. And we all were like, okay, our moms will never let us get away with that. What's the number two? And it was horror. And we saw that people would buy a bad horror movie. They'll buy a good one, but they'll even buy a bad one. So it was like we could do no wrong because we knew after doing 3 years of Click This that we weren't going to make a bad movie, and we didn't. And I'm never going to say it's the best horror movie out there, but I know it's not a bad one.
No, it's not.
And but anyway, so we went for horror, and that's why we went for horror. And then I'd always loved horror. I grew up with horror. Like I said, the monsters were always my friends, and my sketches in Click This were always kind of horror related. And then once I really took over, that's where my and once the gate was open for me, like they were like, okay, we get to do horror now. I'm like, all right, let's go. And the rest is, I guess, history.
Well, yeah, because you've become very predominant, like film festival fixture in Los Angeles. Pretty much anytime I see a film festival being advertised, there's a photo of you on their carpet most of the time. I've seen it.
What?
I've seen photos of
Oh,
you on
that's
their
awesome.
carpets.
That's awesome. I didn't know that. That's cool.
Well, yeah, you got like dances with films. You know, like you're pretty much, if you're not there, I don't think it really runs.
Oh,
I feel like you're
I
always there
love
every time
Dance
it's
with
on.
Film.
It's You're like there from like day one to the close.
I love that festival. I mean, it's the best run festival in LA, and I feel like it is one of the most prestigious in LA. They show at the Chinese Theater, but it's one of the most honest film festivals I've ever been a part of. Because the first year I ever went there, I went in jaded because I'd been to a bunch of shitty festivals. And when I went there, I expected them to kind of be fucked up, and then they were like, "No, we're trying to create a family. We're trying to make a real thing." And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then they really did. I mean, years after even my first year in, they were still trying to support and talk and help and meet and gather people together. And they're in their 26th, 27th year. And even 27 years in, at every festival when I've seen them at, they know every filmmaker, and they have thousands of submissions now. But yet they know every filmmaker that's in their festival. When you walk in, they're like, "Hi, Michelle, how's it going?" And you don't know what it's like to go to a festival and walk up to a table and you're the filmmaker and you're like, you've never been there, and you're just like, especially at the Chinese Theater, you could, if from somewhere else, you could be overwhelmed. You walk up to the table and they're just like, "Who are you?" And you're like, I'm so and so and I have my film. Oh, okay, well, here, or you may not know to say anything.
Mhm.
Dancing with Films, they see you, they're like, "Hey, what's up? Hey, this is you, and this is your film. Welcome. Thank you for being in our part. This is stuff." And and they get excited about you. And that means so much. And the reason for that is because they were filmmakers themselves before they started this festival. They made a movie, the festival directors made a movie and they submitted it to Sundance, and it didn't get in because it was a really great movie and it was good, but it didn't have stars in it. And they went, "Well, that's not fair." there should be a festival about that shows really great movies that doesn't have to have star power.
Mhm.
And thus Dancing with Films was created, and here we are in their 27th year, and that's why I say they're all about heart. And they started with heart, and even all these years later, now there's Dancing with Films New York and LA. There's two now. So yeah, they're amazing.
I did go through their submission list to see if they took scripts, and they didn't. I was kind of, I could understand that there could be so many scripts they'd be getting, but I kind of wanted to have my name with their name. That didn't happen.
Well, you should send me what's the first one that you went through? The
Devil in the Dark.
Devil. You should send me the script for Devil in the Dark,
I'll send it.
and we'll yeah, I'll read it, and then let's talk. Because I was that's like, how many awards did you win on that thing?
26.
Jesus Christ, that thing was like a juggernaut. It was unstoppable. Did you get that feeling where if you went to a festival and it didn't win, you were like, "What's wrong with you?" Like I got that with horror. Like I was just like, "What's wrong with your festival?"
No, I was someone, because the first one I ever submitted to was an Australian one called A Night of Horror. It was in Sydney, and I got rejected. But I was like, you know what? As long as you read it, I'm happy you read it, because I was a bit of the George McFly kind of like, I write stories. Oh, don't read them. Don't read my stories. I was a bit like that. So yeah, it was my friend Nathan Hill. After I sent that to him, he's like, send it to Film Freeway, send it to some festivals, see how it goes.
Hmm.
And then I entered like a free one, and I got an award, and I was like, it's not a typo on your thing, right? That's actually like a win. So like
Well,
the
let me
awards
tell
there
you,
on
let
my
me tell you
shelf.
something. The free ones, just so you know, the free ones are really hard to get into because because they're free,
Yeah,
everyone just it's a click of a button to submit, especially if it's free.
yeah.
So everyone submits. So if you actually get into one of the free festivals and then actually win, you don't even know. That's like a major thing. That shows a lot actually. So kudos to you for
Thank you.
sure.
Because that was
No,
the
that's a
only like
real big
trophy
deal.
I bought. Because there was all the trophies like $500 to ship, and I was like, yeah, good luck with that. No way am I paying
Yeah.
that. If I was actually
Then
there, you
see,
wouldn't be charging me.
that's why I love dances, because there's the legit festivals and then there's the ones that are like, yeah, yeah, we show online. And it only costs you $75 to submit. And I'm like, what? Okay, at least, I mean, dance doesn't even charge that much, but at least when you're at a theater and you're paying $75, you're like, okay, well, they had to rent the theater, and there's, okay, I get it. And the festivals are going on and whatever. Online, you're pressing buttons, bro. I'm not gonna pay you $75 to be on your website. So you can rape and once it's online like that, then you can rape my movie. No. How about no? How
Yeah.
about no?
There
Mm-mm.
was one that I did it to. I'm not going to say the name of it, but I didn't realize that me submitting it came with like feedback from someone as well. And granted, yeah, there were typos. I'm pretty sure I've got ADHD. I miss my little typos. I can edit other people's stuff, but
Right.
not my own. But he was like, most of his feedback was him trying to sell me the idea of getting his friend to edit it for like $40. And I was like,
Oh my
yeah,
God, you
I'm
dicks.
I'm gonna read it out loud and find all my typos. I'm not doing that. And then he tried to advertise me his book, like an ebook on eBay. I was like, um,
Oh,
most of the feedback was all about him and his friend. And I was just like, yeah, no. Nah. Oh,
wow.
but yeah,
Okay.
I did go nuts with the submissions for the first one, which I will admit, because I was excited. Just the idea of someone was
But
reading my
but
stuff.
you killed it.
The second one, I think I've only done it into 6 or 7. And there's one I think they're still waiting to know the result for, but I've won all the other ones except for one. So I'm like,
Woof.
so is this one a little bit better? Is it a case of you guys are kind of hyped, going like, oh, Michelle's got another one that's Yvonne's got another one that's come out.
See that is a thing. I did notice too, is that once I destroyed through the festivals with Horror of Our Love, it did make everything I submitted afterwards a little bit easier, because they did, especially they were like, oh well, he killed it before, he had to have killed it again.
Yeah.
And luckily they're right. And that's the thing is, once you lose that, that's what I feel like. Once you lose that, it's over. Once you put out something subpar, then they go, oh, well, the next time you come with something, even if it's awesome, it's gonna be a little bit harder to go through.
Yeah.
That's why I always try, you have to be the best that you can, especially if you're hitting free. Like I said, the free festivals, everybody in the world is submitting into that. So I mean, they're getting half finished scripts. They're getting people that are, that suck and don't know what they're doing at all. They're getting great stuff. And it's just all, I mean, that I wouldn't want to do a festival for free for that reason. You'd be getting thousands and thousands of submissions to Film Freeway because it's literally a click of a button. Um, but uh, but because of that, it's all the getting into the festival. It's really hard. So the fact that you actually got into all those festivals and then actually won them, it's pretty incredible, I think.
Another feedback thing I got was that my scripts were formatted weird because I don't have a script writing program. I just format it in Word just because I'm like, economy, it's disgusting. So I don't know, it looked like a script. Everyone said it looks like it. So I'm sometimes I think, is that a factor for maybe where I got an honorable mention instead of like a win or something? But as I said, as long as someone read it, that's what I'm happy about.
It could be, but honestly, if it's I mean, if it's basically written in script format, basically, I
Yeah.
mean that's what people want to see. You know what I mean? That's what makes it easy to read.
Yeah.
It's when it's just all one paragraph, and you're like, oh, But
That was
actually
one thing
breaking it up
yeah.
into the actual things and whatever. No, I mean, if somebody wants to be a stickler, then yes.
Yeah.
And you never know. You never know what the festival is going to be like. Or I mean, here, I submitted. My film Horror of Our Love.
Mm-hmm.
I submitted it to. I don't know if I should say the festival. We'll say I submitted it to a festival on the East Coast, and we were winning nonstop at that point. Like it was right in the middle of our run. So I mean, it was just every all the best festivals. Not only were we getting in, but we were winning.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we got a rejection from this one festival. But part of this deal with this festival was they give you feedback.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I wish I gotta find this email. It is so great. So 3 judges reviewed my movie. And they give you what all three said. The first person said that I didn't understand what a horror movie was because it was trying to be too funny and romantic, and I should watch a horror movie like something from Alfred Hitchcock. And right there I'm like, that's a thriller. That's not a horror
Yeah.
movie, that's a thriller. But so this guy obviously didn't know what he was talking about, and so I was just laughing at what he wrote. The second person got all offended by the movie and was like, I don't like this movie because it glorifies stalking. And I'm like, well, you missed the point. And they were like, yeah, you obviously don't know much about horror movies because um, this movie glorifies stalking, and it sends a bad message, and it puts forth a bad image. The third guy was like, I love this movie. It's fucking genius. And for some reason, I guess he didn't read what they wrote, but it was rad. He was like, I love this movie. It's genius. And for some reason, I have a feeling my other 2 judges are not going to understand what this movie is actually about because they're not real horror fans. And this is a love letter to horror movies. And it's so much fun. And it's really great. And if you don't get in, I'm really, really sorry. I laughed so hard because I was like, well, he's right. And he called me a genius. And the other two must be wrong. They must be wrong then. So it made me laugh so hard. But I mean, that's the beautiful thing about making something and putting it out there. is it's like here I am. Like I don't have any kids, right? But all my movies are my babies because you make them, you put them out there for the world to judge, and they're gonna do whatever they're gonna do, and you never know. Like especially with Horror of Our Love, I was pretty. I mean, even though I had bit parts out there, I was still pretty unknown. It's really Horror of Our Love that put my name on the map. But when it was first made and going out there, it was in 2010, there was nothing like it. Nothing. Now there's memes and shit like it. And fucking I've seen other music videos that try to rip me. I saw a music video last week that was such a blatant ripoff of Horror of Our Love, almost shot for shot, almost. And I was like, you owe me money. But anyway,
Jesus.
oh yeah. But in 2010, there was nothing like it. No one had ever seen a monster that was in love with his final girl and was chasing her around and was singing at her. And no one had ever seen anything like that and the things I was doing with it. And so it was killing everywhere. But before it did that, I didn't know when I made it, I didn't know if everyone was gonna, and if anyone was even gonna get it, if anyone was even gonna like it or understand it. And that's the thing, you put it out there and hope. And it's like I did an interview once where a guy was like, "How did you know this would work? And how did you know this was gonna be so funny? And how did you know this was gonna be so funny?" And I was like, "I didn't. I I thought it was funny, and I hoped somebody else would too." And that's what you do, you know?
Yeah.
You hope.
So apart from being in the film festivals and stuff, this going back to YouTube, you're actually known under the name Zombie Dave as well. So where did that particular name come from?
Wow. Well, in 2010, Facebook was a thing, and there was no Instagram and nothing else. Everybody was on Facebook. And we were destroying with Horror of Our Love. We were destroying the festivals, and I was every month. I had 2 or 3 festivals, and we're just destroying, promoting. We won this. We're going to this festival. Blah blah blah. Being loud, loud. All of a sudden, I realized I had a month break of nothing, no festivals. I somehow scheduled it weird, and we had a bunch afterwards. So I was just like, "How did I do this?" And so I was like, "Oh shit." So I'm like, well, what are we gonna do? We can't just go quiet for a month. We can't just be like, hey, we're win. Come check us out. Like I would have lost all the heat and the momentum. So I'm like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And then as a joke, I looked over my buddy and I said, grab the camera. I got an idea. And I grabbed my neighbors, and actually the video is on YouTube now, the first video we made. And the first one is just me, actually. That one's only on Facebook. That one's really rare. It's where I actually am talking to the camera and I show that I got bit, and I'm like, what the fuck? I say, I made up this great line. I say, I direct and write horror movies. I'm not supposed to be one. And then you watch me turn into Zombie Dave, and then the camera gets knocked over. But the real first video we made was I had my neighbors chain me to a chair in the parking lot. And then one of my Click This cast members, who's actually Detective Giallo in Bit Parts, he's like, yeah, normally Dave would be doing this kind of thing, but apparently he's a zombie and he's strapped to a chair. And so we just jokingly were trying to jokingly make Facebook think that patient 0 bit me. I was patient 1, and I was going all over the countryside infecting the world. And because I had been doing all these festivals, I'd accrued all these filmmaker friends that were all over the country. And so they were all making these little like 5 30-second videos of Zombie Dave sightings for the next month. And a lot of them were makeup artists too. And so they were like doing all these great bites and stuff. Like, why, Dave? I thought we were friends. And these cute little videos were coming up. And so what I didn't realize, I was just doing this for fun, and just the plan was for me to be bit and turned into Zombie Dave. And then right at the end of the month, my film company would find me, cure me, and then we just go on promoting like nothing ever happened. And that was the plan. But right at the end of like where I was just about to do that, uh my friends started contacting me. They're like, do you realize what's going on? I realized my Facebook, that's when my Facebook exploded and went like all the way to the 5,000 and then over, which is weird that it's over. And and then there were blogs that were like people around the United States. Some of them thought what was because I was everything was taking place on my wall, on my Facebook wall. So there are people like thought it was real and shit. They're like, is he really turning into a zombie? And what the fuck? And did it? And we were dying. So we were like, and I sort of realized that they wanted me to be Zombie Dave and this sort of mix of make movies as a zombie. So that's what happened. So my film company supposedly cured me well enough to I'm still a zombie, but they feed me brains and go make movies, Dave, and I go do it. And that's how it ended. And then it's funny, the first festival I went to afterwards, I was taking all these pictures and everybody's like, "Well, wait, if you're a zombie, how come you look like that?" This is how I made it the easy. Oh, I made it so easy for me by do the first festival by doing this. I said, well, I'm a filmmaker. I do have a special effects team. So for 364 days out of the year, my special effects team are making me look like a human. The only day I don't have to do any makeup is Halloween, where I get to look like a zombie. But other than that, the better I look in a picture, that just means that my makeup team just did a good job. And everybody went, okay, and accepted it. So now I didn't even have to do makeup anymore. All I got to do is, and everyone's like, Zombie Dave.
Zombie Dave. So
Yeah.
another thing that you did on YouTube, so I found this out from your Twitch stream. You had like a ghost hunting show that you were doing. Is that what?
Oh, that never actually made it to air, but yeah, we did do a ghost hunting show. We did a couple of episodes of it, and yeah, that was weird because yeah, there was this. We had the psychic, who was like she was an empath and she could sense stuff. We had a couple of film, and it was all film, but she's also a scream queen. So it was all people that were in the horror industry, but who were also willing to ghost hunt. And then there was me. I was director, but also the skeptic. And that was the problem is whenever they'd say ghost and everyone would go running out, I would go running in. And I'd be like, where? It's a fucking wind, you guys, or my favorite one is when they were like, we went to this one house and they were like, oh, the walls crackle every night. The walls crackle all night. You can hear things running inside. And I'm like, and then the light, these lights will go on sometimes and then just go off for no reason. And these ones dim. And I'm like, and I put my ear against the wall and I hear, and I go, when's the last time you had an electrician go through your walls? And they went, no, we just did. And da da da, because we just sold that, or we just bought the house and we just had an electrician go through and da da da. And I'm like, no, no, it's a ghost. It's a ghost. And I go, put my ear up against the wall again. And I go, I'd have an electrician go through just one more time. Sure enough, electrician went through. Was no ghost. Their house was about to burn down. They had exposed wires and shit in there, and that were connecting, and that's what that was. And that's why the lights would they turn on one light, and that would make a connection, and that's why this one would go out. And yeah, there was no
Jesus.
ghost. It was bad electricity. I mean that house had been there since like the 60s, so.
Are you a ghost believer, or or was it like were you skeptic as part of the show? Because
Okay.
I'm a ghost believer, but I will make sure that all the earthly things are explained before I think it's a ghost.
Okay, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
So that's I feel like it's sort of a superpower in that I never scared. Never. Because the moment I go into a situation and things if I do this is how my mind works. In a split second if I go I'm scared right now, my immediate next thought is I'm scared. I can use this then to write. And then the moment you have that thought, it ceases being scary anymore. Now you're working and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, what do I see? What do I see? What do I feel? And so, and this happens immediately. It's, you know, so and then my third thought is, but it just doesn't get there. So, fuck, man. I lost my train of thought right there. What was I talking about?
About not being scared easy because
Oh, the ghost
yeah,
hunting show. Right,
yep.
right, right. So that's what made me a skeptic. So I'm willing to go into I totally lost the ghost thought. Um um no, that's it's what whenever I go into a situation, what made me a skeptic was I would be able to see things for what they were because I was always like, okay, if it is a ghost, then I can write that. And if I actually got scared to had actually had a real experience with a ghost, I can write it. The problem is I've never because I see things for what they are and I see wind and I'm willing to go like whenever like there was a sound outside that must have been Thomas saying hello to me. Yeah, I don't do that. I go, yeah, that was the house settling.
Yeah.
Or things just happen. Or noises just happen, coincidences happen. I need the concrete proof. I need to see a ghost in front of me and go, "What's up?" And they never do. They never do. They never do. Especially in the show, it's like this thing happens always at 3 o'clock. It always happens at 3 o'clock. All the doors open in the kitchen. It always happens. It always happens. So I'm there at 2:30. I'm in there. 3 o'clock happens. Nothing happens. What do they always say? Oh, I guess he's just not doing it right now. But yesterday, it always happens. I'm here now and I'm watching you, so you can't pull any strings and you can't do anything. And I'm making sure you can't do anything. All of a sudden, it's not doing it right now. You know, in saying all that. Okay. The only experience I ever had, I still don't really know if it's bullshit or not, was this one house. The last house we did was this house up in the Mulholland Hills, and it was one of the houses that was involved in the Manson murders.
Yeah.
And they were actually dropping the house and going to rebuild a new house. But right before they destroyed it, they let us go through. And it looked great for camera because it was just all destroyed and they'd already started demolition in there. And so it looked great. So we were going through and whatever. I go into the basement of the house and doom, doom, doom. As I got down into the basement, I felt this very like pressure on me. Like it was like it was hard to breathe, sort of. It was like I felt a very like the air pressure was heavy in there. And so I look at my friends and I go, wow, the pressure, the air pressure is weird in here. It's so heavy. And my friends are going, what are you talking about? And I'm like, what do you mean? I mean, like, feel that? Like, it's like, take a deep breath. And they do. And they go, what? It's fine. And I go, and the empath is going at me. And she's going, there's a ghost on you right now. And it's pushing down on your chest. And I went, that's the best it's got. There you go, ghosty. And I'm like, and I'm like, really? Really though? Shut up. So I go up the stairs and I go outside to have a smoke. And as soon as I got outside, felt fine. Right? So I have my smoke, whatever. I'm like, whatever. Go back. As soon as I get do in there again. And I'm like, you guys really don't feel that? And the empath is going at me. And I'm like, you guys really don't feel that? And to this day, they say no, they felt nothing. And the empath, who's a very close friend of mine, claims that there was a ghost pushing down on my chest. And I say, bullshit. That's not proof of a ghost. What I think happened was, okay, like I said, I'm from California. In Northern California, we have this part of the Santa Cruz Mountains that's called the Mystery Spot. And on that mystery spot, the gravity is weird, and it's just very, and when you move around in there, you can feel air pressure, and it just feels weird. I'm already attuned to that because I'm from that area, so I may have just been feel like gravity might have, because we were on the mountainside just like that in one of these hills. So I might have just been feeling gravity weirdness in there, and that's what I was feeling, and I was feeling sensing that. So that's as close as I can say I came to a ghost, or did I?
Well, I'm going to tell you mine because there was something very similar to what you experienced that I experienced.
Really?
When I was 15, so in year 10, we went down to Tasmania and we went to the Port Arthur jail site, which is just
Did
ruins
you see a devil spinning?
now. Every
Sorry.
time you move your hand, there's a face that pops up over your shoulder. So every time you're
Mhm.
talking about ghosts, all we could see was that face. There it
Oh, there
is.
it is. Yep.
So we did do like a day tour. We got to explore the site, but at night we did a ghost tour. And I had my best friend. She was like latched onto my arm all night. She was so scared. And that's when I introduced drop bears to her. That's a different story. And
Drop
we went to this house, this really nice white house that apparently it's where anyone who was running the jail at the time, that's where they would live. So we went into the house, and this tour guide's talking about this guy. He was a colonel. I can't remember his name, but me and my friend were at the back of the group, pitch black house. And as I'm standing there, I'm just like, why do I feel like really sad? Like it felt like every single good thing in my life was just gone, and I just wanted to cry. But you know
Whoa.
when you're holding back crying and you get that kind of pain in the back of your throat. And
Yeah,
I remember going
I'm
like,
fine. What? No, I'm fine.
yeah. And I remember like I wanted to cry, but I couldn't make a noise. That's why my throat was hurting. And like my friend's latched onto my arm. She doesn't know what's happening because I'm facing away from her. I'm like doing that, and I turn. There's a teacher behind me. I'm like, I can't go outside because the teacher has to be with me, and they're going to crack it if they miss out on the tour. So I've got to stay in this room. So probably after about 3 or 4 minutes of talking about this house, we leave. 2 3 minutes later, I feel fine. I'm like, back to what we're doing. And I didn't really think about it for a long time until I found a photo of the house I took the next day. And I was like, why did I feel that way? Like I've never experienced anything like that. It was weird. So I looked it up, and apparently someone, probably the person that the tour guide was talking about, he hated listening to the prisoners crying at night. So as a punishment, if he heard you crying, you had a sack put on your head and you had to be in the dark and not cry. So I thought to myself, was someone trying to make me feel like they were made to feel?
And you weren't
Because
allowed to cry.
I wasn't allowed to cry. I couldn't make a noise. But it was like
That's way
afterwards I looked
cooler
it
than
up, and I
my
was like,
story. What are you talking
and
about?
it was like 20 years later, I was like, wait, is that
I
what
thought you were
happened?
gonna say, and then I looked at the pictures I was taking. I took a selfie, and there's a ghost behind me giving me the bunny ears.
I did take a photo of a house though, where I was saying to everyone, okay, I'm taking a photo. Is nothing in the windows, nothing in this. And someone's just like, just take the fucking photo. And I did, and there's something in the window. And everyone's like, there's something in the door. I'm like, yeah, that's Damien. I know he was there. I remember he was there when I took the photo. And everyone's like, no, Michelle, that particular room had a light on. I'm like, yeah, I turned it on when we went to the house. So it wasn't on when I took this photo. But yeah, that was my ghost experience. The only thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah, see, like that's the thing, is that like that there is this wanting to be see the ghost and want, oh, that was a ghost. I know it. There's that want.
Yeah.
And I easily am able to shut that off. And I think that's what is makes my eyes clean when I see or experience. Because I've tried. I mean, I put myself like I had a friend of mine that died at a very early age. And I went to a place that only he and I would hang out at. I went and I sat there for a couple of hours because I wanted something. I just wanted I wanted his ghostly image to come talk to me and say goodbye, or to just even hear something or whatever, something that I could say it was a ghost and maybe it was a goodbye or some sort of closure or whatever. The wind blew through trees. Birds flew by. Could it have been? Sure, I guess. Or it could have been the wind and it could have been birds.
True.
And so, yeah, and it's
But
not
how
that
did
I'm not
you
open to
feel
it.
after that though? How
How
did
did
you
I
feel
feel?
after that experience happened though? Did you feel like something like relieved off your shoulders? Like did it feel any different after that happened?
No, I was just sad that I didn't
Oh,
experience anything. Oh, and like I went to like in Old Town, Pasadena, there is this bridge called Suicide Bridge where in the during the Great Depression they call it Suicide Bridge because there were a lot of accountants that were uh, they were very depressed during the Great Depression and they were jumping off the bridge. They actually had to build a little like guardrail to it now that's there now so you can't jump off it. But supposedly, there is a ghost that's one of the accountants. He like dresses in a full suit with a bowler hat and he has circle glasses. And he supposedly roams that bridge at night. So I went there at midnight and stayed till 3 in the morning, just walking up and down this bridge and filming and having fun, playing around and pretend, oh, there he is. Oh, wait, that's just a light, and just fucking around and plucking around, search the footage. Maybe because I'm a dick, and that's why the ghosts are just like, fuck that guy. Oh, I do have one other experience with a ghost. Um, Again, this is kind of like, okay. I filmed a music video. It's on YouTube actually. It's uh Get Bitter Get Eight. It was for a zombie vampire rapper. But we shot it at the Cecil Hotel, which is supposedly the most haunted hotel in LA.
yep.
And we shot it there 6 months after Alyssa Lamb was found in the water tanks and that whole thing.
Yep.
Okay. I knew where we were, but I didn't tell my cast and crew because I didn't want them to freak out and be like all trippy about it. And sure enough, I come into extras holding, and all my actors are all gathered around one actor who's holding up her phone like that. And as soon as I come in, she turns her face to me and she goes, "Do you know where we are right now?" And I go, "Mm-hmm." And she goes, "Do you know the Black Dahlia killer stayed in the room directly above us right now?" And I said, "Okay." She said, "Do you know that the Night Stalker killer stayed in also in that exact same room up there?" And I went, "Okay." They walked on the sidewalk out front too. Should we freak out about that? The moment I said that, we were doing zombie makeup, and my makeup lady had put this big, heavy jar of it's coagulated blood, so it's kind of heavy. She had this jar on. She put it on this shelf that was bolted to the wall. Right then, the shelf broke, and the jar of blood hit the floor and just went. Blood just started going across the floor like that. All my actors all went right. Me, I immediately go, well, that's fucking money on the floor right now. Somebody needs to get that blood back in the jar and put and we need to use that shit. And right then, all my actors and crew went, "Oh shit!" And they all start cleaning up the blood and putting it in, and they all went back to work. Okay. On the inside, this is what's going on in my head. I'm like, well, if there was a ghost, that would have been the perfect time. I mean, and blood and everything, right?
Yes.
If there was a ghost, it probably just went boo. And then I was so mad and so focused that I think it went boo. You know what? Dave's busy. We can haunt tomorrow. Let's just haunt tomorrow. Let's just and nothing else. I mean, I mean, was it? I mean, and I looked at that shelf because I kind of wanted to see was it a ghost? The those wood screw they had it was like shitty drywall. It was old. That shelf was probably loose, and that jar was right on the edge. I mean, it probably was too heavy for the shelf.
Yeah.
But and it pulled it out, but the timing of it was great. The timing of it
I've got another one as well, actually.
was it a ghost though?
Never know.
Ooh.
Could have been. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened at that hotel, which unfortunately I didn't get to
That's
see
the
it when I was
thing
there.
though. That's the thing. I mean, of all the places.
So
But
the
sure
other
wasn't the first time blood dripped across that floor. It was probably the first time it was fake.
the other one that I had, the first house I lived in when I moved out of home, there were a couple of times where I'll be laying in bed facing a wall, so behind me, the other side of the bed, and I'd feel the bed lower, like someone was sitting on it, but I'd never remember ever feeling it ever rise up. But there will be times I'd be laying there and I'd feel it, and I'm like, I'm not turning around. No, no, I'm not turning. I don't want to see it. If something's there, I don't want to see it. That one happened a couple of times in that house. I've never experienced it again.
Well,
Yeah.
but that just goes just wanted to spoon you. It's cold.
It did get
Come
cold in
on,
that house,
Michelle.
probably. Alrighty, man. We got on a tangent about ghosts. So yeah, not that
We
I
do
care.
that.
Hopefully everyone is enjoying the ghost tangent. So I'm going to say you're actually a pretty predominant figure in the horror community in Los Angeles. And the horror community in Los Angeles is like the epicenter for like all horror. Like you've got so much like good things like Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street.
I wish what you were saying was true, but go on.
Don't. Well, I was going to say, like, when was a moment that, you kind of like knew that you were kind of in with those kind of people? Like sitting, like a certain someone you met, like, you sat down with someone, you were like, they're my people.
Ooh, wow, which one? One time I was hanging out with my friend Max, and I started talking about my love for this director, Robert Townsend. And it's kind of a long story. Should I tell a shorter one?
Uh, yeah, probably a shorter one.
Okay, yeah, I knew that was let's see. Probably being at Monsterpalooza. Because there's so many great, especially when Monsterpalooza first started coming out in like 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010. They were Creation Weekend of Horrors kind of started to fail, and so Monsterpalooza took over in LA. And I was doing like in 2008, Bit Parts had been out there for a little while, and people started to actually see it. And it was Debbie Rochon and Lloyd Kaufman of Trauma.
Yep.
They had seen Bit Parts and loved it so much that they were pushing it. And the moment I walked into that convention, and Debbie Rochon had a line of course, because Debbie Rochon, beautiful and whatever. She had a line of dudes in front of her, and she separated them. She's like, everybody move to your left. Dave Reda, is that you? Dave Reda, Dave Reda, and pointed at me. She's like, come here, come here. And like I was like, and they were all looking at me like, what the fuck? And I came up to the table, and she ran out and grabbed me and was like, I love your movie so much. Oh, you got to put me in your next movie. And I was like, wow. And then Lloyd came over and was just like, dude, Bit Parts is so fun. It's so cool. We should talk and da da da. And now I think that was one of the first moments that I was like, wow, like I love these people and I admire these people, and I get to hang out with them now. And they're not looking at me as I'm not on that side of the table. Now I'm on this side of the table finally. And that was probably one of the first moments. And it was and I mean, without Debbie Rochon, and even though we weren't a Trauma movie and we weren't released through Trauma, without their push, I don't think Bit Parts would have even have got the love and attention that it did. At that time, they were doing a radio show, Fangoria Radio,
Yeah.
and it was hosted with Debbie Rochon and Dee Snider. And Dee Snider and Debbie Rochon, they gave us the best interview, and Dee Snider was so cool to me and so great, and Debbie too. And yeah, they gave us a lot of love, a lot of love. So I think that would be probably one of the first moments.
That is cool.
And it
That
still
is
means a
so
lot.
cool. No, that's great. Like, yeah, I actually hadn't heard that one before. So
Ah,
that's a really cool one. What would
that
be
was yeah, because that I don't think I rarely talk about the beginning, because it's always what you did now, you know what I mean? But what in the very, very beginning, when things were really no one knew who I was and all that, I rarely talk about those times.
well, you got to start somewhere. Those moments got you to here. So You got to remember you can't miss
Facts.
those ones. So,
Hmm.
what would be the dream like horror subgenre that you would like to do that you haven't done yet?
I would love to do. I mean, I guess sort of my movies are kind of that way, but I've never really done an action like fighty action explodey horror movie. And I was very impressed with and depressed at the same time. Did you see Renfield with
I haven't
Nicolas
seen it yet.
Cage?
Not yet.
Oh, okay. This movie, I really loved what they did with it. Have you seen the trailer at least or anything like
Yep,
that?
I have. Yep.
I love what they did with the action in this movie and how they shoot it. I mean, at times it very much looks like a regular, like not regular, but like a very much like an action movie, and it's treated that way. And then it has its horror elements too, and it's very funny too. It's very well balanced. Where I do comedy, horror, romance, they did comedy, romance, or comedy, romance, horror, action, but their romance angle is bullshit. So it's not, I don't even really count it. But what they did with it and how they shot it and how Renfield fights in it and everything, it's really fucking cool. And it made me go, holy shit, I really want to do that so bad. So bad. Much like I want to make a movie much like Big Trouble in Little China would be a great example of what I
So
want to
cool.
do. Do you know what I mean? It's because I
Yep.
also love karate films and all that style. Being able to do all that, like in one of my filmmakers that I love and admire is Stephen Chow. Do you know Stephen Chow? He did Kung Fu Hustle,
Yep.
Shaolin Soccer. What he's able to do with karate, and like I would love to work with him and do use his effects and do a horror movie. And that's what I would really love to work with Stephen Chow. That would be amazing.
That sounds cool. Have you
Yeah,
seen
that would budgetless.
Malignant by James Wan?
Hmm.
Yeah. It got me thinking of something like that with that like massive action sequence in it. That would be so cool.
It's funny. I've met James Wan a couple of times out here, and I got to tell you, that guy is such a nice guy, and he's so humble. You just you wouldn't know that he is quite the genius that he is. He's
He's a
such a
Melbourne
good
boy.
guy.
That's why. He's a
He's a,
Melbourne boy.
what's that?
He's a Melbourne boy. That's why.
There you go. He is a good guy. He really is. And I get maybe people don't talk about that in the industry and like, oh, blah blah blah. They always want to talk about the bullshit. He's a great and really nice guy. Yeah.
No.
He'll
It's
sit and
actually
have
really
that
good.
conversation with you. Yeah.
Sorry?
I said he'll sit and have that conversation with you. He's not like totally like, I don't got what who are you? I don't got time, because there is that here. There is.
Yeah.
But and he's not one of those dudes. He's very down to earth, really cool guy.
No, it's really good to hear because he's like a director I do admire and I admire his work. So it's nice to know that he's not because I've come across many people who I'm like, oh, I admire this person. Then I hear horrible things and I'm like, oh, great. You're like, no, don't meet your idols. Don't hear about their, don't hear
Well,
about
see,
other people
that's the
being
thing.
your idols.
I've heard that. And I guess I'm either blessed to have picked the right idols or just been lucky because every single one of them that I admire, I have great stories with. I mean, like take Bruce Campbell. I had a moment with Bruce Campbell when we first met where I was backstage. I was actually doing 15 minutes in front of him, opening up for him at Creation Weekend of Horrors one weekend. And probably don't have time for that story. Another time I was hanging out with Wes Craven, and I right before he died, he's back there sucking oxygen, and he was every bit the cool dude I expected him to be. Fucking George Romero, I got to see him before he died. And what tripped me out about George Romero was how fucking tall he was. The dude is like 6 fucking 5, 6'6". He was fucking, I was looking up like, damn, dude, huge dude. But because all in his interviews, he's always like this. So he
Mhm.
looks like this little old man. And then he's fucking huge. But he was every bit as cool and just so what I wanted him to be. Sam Raimi, I was able to speak to, and every bit as cool as I wanted him to be. Robert Townsend, every bit as cool as I wanted him to be. I was just my mentor, Robert Rodriguez. Fucking dude, bit parts would not exist without Rebel Without a Crew and Robert Rodriguez, and fucking every bit as amazing and soul and heart as I wanted him to be. So, these people taught me, I looked at them and saw how they were, and I I don't want to say that I have fans, but I do. And I always want to be that way and connect with them the way that, because without that I wouldn't have done what I did. And I if I can do that for somebody else or inspire some other filmmaker that to get out there, it's like I have to, you got to pay it forward, you know?
Yeah. So I'll
So,
leave you with one more question here.
no, lemon, yellow.
So you've been someone who has done the move to go to Hollywood. What would be advice that you would give to new young filmmakers who are coming to Hollywood to try and make it big?
Oof, now is not the time. I would say
Honesty.
now is not to be honest, now is not the time. Um, and unless you're willing to really suffer and struggle and make it. I mean, LA is expensive, number one, of course, but always has been. That's always a thing. But after the strike last year, everyone expected with the strike last year that caused no work in this town, and it caused everyone to freak out, and everyone thought, well, there'll be this big deficit, and then when we do start working again, they will have almost a year's worth of that they got to catch up on. The problem with that thinking was and is the studio did not have a deficit. They have thousands and thousands of things that they just haven't put out yet. So for a year, they just went, all right, let's just clear the shelves and just don't. So there was not. So when everything started back up, there was no deficit, but tons of people hungry and needing work because they'd been out of work. So it's a very tough time in this town right now. And we still fighting the AI battles too.
Mhm.
So, to be perfectly honest, it's a very, very tough time. But you know, within that, I would never want to crush anyone's dreams or whatever. You know, if you feel in your soul that this is where you need to be, then you're probably right. I mean, that's how I did it. I mean, I knew I had to be here to make shit happen, and I wasn't wrong.
Perfect. I do admire the honesty because when it comes to the writer's strike, we were seeing a lot of TikToks from Luke Cook, who was on Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. And yeah, he brought out the reality of that pretty much he was a big key figure in one of the seasons of Sabrina, yet he hardly got paid for it. Or he was on a billboard on Sunset Boulevard and he never saw a penny for it. So
Yeah.
at least during that, we got to see the reality of that. People go there
It's
thinking,
real.
I'll do a commercial, I'll get 4 grand for it. No, it doesn't work that way.
Not anymore. Not anymore because of the internet and everything's changed so much. It's really weird because I mean, back when we were kids, there were like a few networks and then there were a few shows. If you were on one of those shows, even if someone didn't like your show and didn't watch it, they knew who you were. They saw commercials and they saw you go by. Now there's so many networks and so many shows. You could be a star of a TV show and walk around the airport and probably like most people may not even know who you are because they don't happen to not watch Hulu and see that one fucking show that's been
Yeah.
on for 3 years because they're too busy watching Stranger Things over there on Netflix or
Mhm.
they're on Tubi watching old movie. You know what I mean? There's just it's not what it was, and unfortunately, I mean, there are a lot of famous actors, or no, let me rephrase that. There are a lot of actors out there who are leads on TV shows that are driving Lyft or working at Dunkin' Donuts. And they're on the billboard outside and they're working at Dunkin' Donuts because they only make, like now you're making like, 150, let's say 150 grand per show, right? But then you got to pay your agent, then you got to pay your publicist, then you have to pay because but these are requirements. You have to have these things.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have to pay legal. And then by the time you're looking at it, you're looking at like 30 grand. And 30 grand in LA for the year is hard to live on.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a lead on a TV show. And, I mean, and also because you're on that show, they lock you down so you can't do other work and you can't be on other TV shows because you're locked down there. So you're locked down for 30 grand.
Yeah.
Basically when all's said and done. It's a different time and it's really weird and it's just not what it used to be. Plus when we were little kids, we had like you could be a Hollywood legend like Cary Grant or Katharine Hepburn or just these people were Hollywood legends and no matter what they did, they were legends. We don't really have those now anymore because you could be a YouTube star. You could, it's been so watered down now. What's a legend anymore? So it's everyone used to strive to be at this level that now that level doesn't exist anymore. So now you're striving to just survive.
Well, I appreciate the honesty and I appreciate you coming onto the show today, Dave. It's been a
Oh,
long time coming. You knew I wanted to have you on the show and we finally made it happen.
you rock. It was fun as always. You rock. And I hope your show, like you got to spend a whole show talking about like what's behind your head.
I know there's a lot. I should really do like some YouTube shorts with it. But yeah,
Seriously.
so thank you, Dave, for being on the show. And thank you, everyone, for watching today. I hope you enjoyed the show. Like and subscribe, share with your friends, do all those good things. And we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.